I went through a bankruptcy and then shifted more towards retreat style experiences. I started wanting more out of life and starting to look deeper within myself of, what do I truly want and how do I want to give back in the world. I have been really, really inspired and believe that there's a whole new way of life that's possible when you get the right people in the right living conditions. Magic can happen.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Sovereign Mindset Podcast. I'm Michael Ruiz, and today I am with Brady Headlund. Brady has ran a tour company for the past 13 years. He's been to 75 countries, and he's in El Salvador now, scoping it out, checking if this is a possibility for one of his next projects. And today we're going to be talking about intentional communities. So, Brady, thanks for being on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So I gave you a quick intro. Why don't you fill us in with some of the details on your journey here so far?
Yeah, I guess I could start where it all began.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, which is a very cold, less desirable place to live. And as soon as I turned 18, I went traveling to Australia. I fell in love with traveling, ended up in Southeast Asia, and I decided to start a tour company doing tours originally in Thailand and then ended up doing them in 18 different countries around the world. I was 19 when I started it, and so it was an expression of my 19-year-old self. It was party, fun, adventure type of stuff, and it grew to be a pretty big company. We had 50 employees at its peak, and we had lots of different brands in connection with it. We had a hotel in Thailand. We were doing yacht tours called Yacht Life. We were doing an island festival in Panama and San Blas Islands, and had a co-living community in Nicaragua. And it was a really fun, amazing experience. Did that for 13 years. COVID came, wiped out the company. I went through a bankruptcy and then shifted more towards retreat style experiences. In that period of time, as soon as I turned 30, I started wanting more out of life and starting to look deeper within myself of, what do I truly want and how do I want to give back in the world. And I looked at the tour company. It was beautiful, it was fun, but it was a little bit more on the hedonistic side of just like fun, party, adventure type stuff. And so I decided to start creating retreats, like wellness style retreats in Croatia, Turkey, and Greece. And within all of that, for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been deeply focused on community building. I've been involved in many different projects from Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Bali, Mexico, all in the realm of co-living and community living.
Wow, that's incredible. So, from all that time working with the tour company, I'm sure a lot of that transferred over to the retreats as well?
Yeah, for the retreats, it's an easy transition over. It's basically the same thing, just with different groups of people and different intentions. But it's still creating experiences. It's still involving travel, and so it translates really easy.
So creating experiences, what does that mean? What experiences did you create? Like, what was the central theme around a lot of your retreats?
So the retreats are kind of well-rounded wellness, personal development style retreats. So the ones that I've been doing are on yachts in Turkey, Greece, and Croatia.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wake up, you do some yoga or some movement, some fitness, do some meditation, and then throughout the day we'd have different workshops with different speakers. And then once we'd be cruising from one island to the next, once we get to the next island, it'd be like adventure, hiking, exploring. And then in the evenings, we'll either have like live music or ecstatic dance or something like that on the top deck or things like that. And so kind of like a well-rounded wellness, personal development type of experience. Not specifically yoga, not specifically fitness or anything. It's kind of just a well-rounded experience.
Gotcha. Now, you're here in El Salvador because you want to do the same thing here, possibly? Is that right?
Yeah, so less around the retreats and more around communal living, community living. I have been really, really inspired and believe that there's a whole new way of life that's possible when you get the right people in the right living conditions, magic can happen. And I've been able to experience pockets of that with different co-living projects that I've had, but I've always ran into challenges with either the owner of the property that I'm renting wants to raise the rent, or has other customers that want to pay more money, or different things. And so I really want to create something that has longevity. And especially in a world of a lot of shifts and changes, and we're living in a time where things are unpredictable. And so having a space where we have food growing, where we have like-minded people around, I believe that's what a lot of people are really calling in right now.
Yeah. So combination of the state of the world and realizing that society has been led down maybe a lot of paths that aren't the most optimal in terms of our health and happiness, right? And then also where you're at in life has kind of brought you here to El Salvador to see if you could build out some type of intentional community, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's awesome. And so can you tell me more about your ideas around that? Do you want to have a certain ethos to the community? How are you approaching it?
Yep. Yeah, so I've been on this journey for 6 or 7 years now, and there's been many different iterations and different groups that I've worked with, and different projects that I've been involved in. And I'm now at a bit of a point where I'm just stepping back, leaning back, and observing, what is really being called of me right now, instead of being like, it needs to be this way, it needs to be this way, it needs to be this way. It's like, okay, what actually is being called? And, instead of me trying to push something or force something, it's kind of like, okay, well, what is the universe trying to show me right now? And I mean, for me, I would say that, I want to be around like-minded people. And for me, that looks like conscious people that want to do big things in the world. They want to give back in the world. They want to have a meaningful life, but they also want to have a balanced life. Not this hustle, grind, let's work 12 to 15 hours a day. It's like, how can we work maybe 4 to 6 hours a day, have a really optimized lifestyle, be able to spend time with friends, family, and have a balanced, holistic life where we're feeling fulfilled and we're living fully, rather than like caught on this hamster wheel trying to prove something and trying to work all the time to try and make more money and do more, accumulate more things, let's say.
Yeah. What's up, everyone? I just want to take a quick break and tell you about the property we're at. This is Club Cocal, and they were nice enough to let us have a conversation here. It's a beautiful property, so give them a look at clubcocal.com. And now back to the conversation. Yeah, it's very much a symptom of kind of the materialistic consumerist system that has been permeating the world now for the past, I would say, 50 years on overdrive. So I think it stems a lot from the money. I don't know if you're a Bitcoiner, but I assess a lot of the problems that we see in society, specific to what you were talking about as well, to the money system. And what you find here is that there's a lot of Bitcoiners who recognize that the money has really created a bunch of harmful incentives to society and has led them to behaving in harmful ways that are very short-sighted and fuel the instant gratification, the need for instant gratification, where I think over here they're trying to build more of a low time preference way of living. At least that's why I'm here, because I think Bitcoin itself, when it's utilized, kind of reorients one's mindsets and one's thinking towards a longer term. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, basically what I'm trying to say is that I think you're going to find a lot of those people here, and I think it's embedded within the Bitcoin culture that's here already. I don't know if you're a Bitcoiner, but it's why I came here too, because I felt like that's going to be the highest concentration of people that see the problems of the world but are proactive to actually do something about it, are going to end up here. Now, is that why you ended up here, or what are some of the reasons why you're even checking out El Salvador?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big reason why I'm here. I've been, a deep part of this vision has been shared ownership structure, mm-hmm. Using a tokenized system. And so the laws in El Salvador have actually been created in order to support that. It's one of the few countries in the world that actually has legislative structures around tokenization. So I was actually doing a project in Costa Rica, and when seeking legal advice, we were given advice to set up an El Salvador company, even for the Costa Rica project, because of the legislation around tokenization. And so for me, that's a big thing, being able to actually create a tokenized project in a country that has legislation for it, because there's very few countries currently in the world that have that. And so yeah, and I mean, obviously in El Salvador, it's very interesting to see what has happened here in the last, less than 10 years. Everything has shifted in this country, and the leadership appears to be very, very forward thinking, and that's exciting to me, to be in a country where it's a small country, and so things can get done quicker and easier. You can get access to people that can make decisions a lot easier. I've spent a lot of time in Indonesia, and Indonesia's it's one of the largest countries in the world, and so getting access to people that make decisions is very difficult. Whereas here, you're only a few degrees away from having a meeting with the president, and so when else do you have that opportunity?
Yeah, it's a very small world here. In the past year, I've kind of been able to build a good network here, and I was surprised at how far I could get within a year. And so I think that it's very easy to stand out right now, and if you're a hard worker and you're actually building something out that's worthwhile, you're going to get that recognition pretty fast. And so, yeah, I feel like it's fertile ground for a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of builders, a lot of visionaries. And you're not necessarily a Bitcoiner though, right? Or
I mean, I've held Bitcoin for almost 10 years now.
Okay.
So I don't identify, a big part of my identity isn't I'm a Bitcoiner, but I truly believe that Bitcoin and any type of tokenized system is the future. And so yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree that the existing system, the fiat system, is, it's on loose stability right now, and so being able to have more sovereign access to money itself, to me, is very important. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge reason why I'm here, is because hopefully we don't run into a case where things get really crazy in the world, and that the economy stays stable and we can continue to transact the way that we have been. But there's a possibility that there could be a financial collapse, there could be a big shift, there could be a lot of different scenarios could happen, and it feels good to me that I can use a different currency such as Bitcoin to pay for my lunch and to pay for my groceries and to pay for my life here, which I think is, it's an extra layer of stability.
Yeah. So more about the intentional community. What's kind of your vision? Like, what can you tell me to imagine? Have you gotten that far yet? And what's the process been like in terms of even thinking this out?
Yeah, so I would say roughly 15 to 20 homes, more with a focus of integrating with nature. So not just like a concrete block, but really working with nature and accenting the nature, showcasing the nature. I like the word eco-chic, so it's still really nice and feels, I don't know if modern is the right word, but like it has a feeling of luxury, but it's still basic at the same time. And having shared facilities, a spa, a gym, a co-working space, a dining area, a yoga shala, and potentially on the other side having rooms for retreats, so having more short-term stays available. And then a lot of the people in my network, they host retreats, or they are facilitators for retreats. And so for those people, they can invest in, they can live on site, and then they can have their business and host their retreats on site, and they don't have to be moving around anymore. Because I know a lot of people in my world, they're a little bit sick of going here and going there and constantly on the move. So this gives the ability to like have everything in one place and just be able to live a more joyful, simple life. Obviously, growing food is also another important aspect as well.
This is interesting. So would you say it's a for-profit operation or something that's non-profit or even a commune? Like how would you identify what your project is?
A bit of a hybrid. You know, the place needs to thrive financially. And for me, it's not about myself or anyone lining their pockets with a lot of money. It's about how can we create something that everybody can benefit from. It can thrive financially. Likely the financial piece will be more from the retreats. And if not, just kind of having everybody sharing the operating expenses on a monthly basis. And so we take the total operating costs, we split it up, kind of like an HOA fee type of thing. And so it's not about me making a massive profit for myself. It's about making a space where everybody can thrive together.
Yeah. You and I were talking yesterday, and we were talking a little bit about this because I have similar aspirations. That's why I was so interested in your experience and your thoughts on the matter, because I'm coming at this from totally a novice place, right? And you've had tons of experience doing tourism as well as retreats, and now you're moving into the intentional community space, which is really cool. So yeah, with me trying to do something similar, we talked a little bit about the strategy, and I'll say what my thoughts were, and then maybe you could add on to whatever thoughts you have onto that. But what I wanted to do was kind of build out the facilities in a way that attracts the person who I would want living on the property, right? And have those facilities and that common area and the common space and just the design and the architecture and everything, as well as the furnishings and the decorations, be catered to, the type of people that I would want to participate on that property. So create that first. Then you suggested to create experiences on that property. So like have events or retreats so people can already build a connection with the property and with each other, right? And then my approach would be then to kind of sell off the lots to people. And it'd also be a way for me to kind of get to know them, a little vetting process happening there too as well. So have you thought about like that? Like how would you start it off? Would you start it off fundraising? Would you sell lots? Then yeah, kind of also the approach to building. Would you approach it in a way that I said, or do you have a different perspective?
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously a lot of different ways that it can be done. One thing that I am a little bit hesitant on is selling lots and then having people be able to do whatever they want with their lots. I know a few people that have done this way of selling lots and then just letting people do as they please. And what happened there is a lot of people didn't build right away. So like a couple people built, a couple people waited, some people still haven't built 10 years later. And so then you've got this kind of there's a few people there, and then it's like a never-ending construction zone because people are building at different times. And then also if one person's building with glass, another person's building with concrete, another person's building with earth, then there's an incongruence. And so I think that it's better to have some sort of a clear alignment of we're going to build this whole thing all in one go. Maybe having clear idea of what materials are going to be used and what the overall look is going to be, but not like if people have the capital and are ready to move before it's built and want to partake in the creation of it, giving them the options to modify and create what they want, but within a certain structure of materials and overall look, so that there's not a bunch of different homes with different colors and different materials.
Listen, for me, that's a big deal too. So one of the reasons why I'm also motivated to build this intentional community is because I am living in a community where they basically flattened out the land and they built out these little cookie cutter homes in a forest, but they're cement block and they're not integrated at all with the nature, but they're building it in phases. And so I now have to wake up every morning to construction going on.
Yep.
And it's a drain on your standard of living, right? That's just the truth of it. And so, really taking a thoughtful approach to how things are constructed, and then also the design in which they're constructed in, I think is a real smart way to approach it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll go back because you had a couple of different pieces to that question. The other piece around like getting the right people to come and be part of it, I think there's a few ways to do it. Obviously, if you have the space, you mentioned like building out some of the initial kind of shared spaces, let's say, whether that's a gym or a spa or co-working space or whatever, and having people come through. That's one way of doing it. Obviously, you mentioned events or retreats. So those are all great ways to kind of build up the right community, the right people that are interested. And it gives them a chance to actually see like, oh wow, like the land's right there, like my home could be right there, especially if you could build like a show unit as well. Then people can walk through and be like, okay, I know that this is real. I'm walking through a physical home. I see how it's built. I want something similar. Oh, maybe I'd change that, maybe I'd change that. And then they could have that and they can see it for real. Another way is to build up an online community. A friend of mine, every week, he had an open call for anyone that was interested in living in community with him. And he did this for years, literally probably 5 years. I joined a bunch of the calls, and it was beautiful. He was creating a community of people that got to know each other over a long period of time. And it took him a long time to actually, put all the pieces together, to get the funds together, get the land together. But the people piece, the people that really wanted to be there and were the right people, they were the ones that stuck around. They joined the calls, and now he's doing it. They got the land and they're building. And so, the people piece, I believe, is one of the most important pieces. And so getting that right feels like a huge piece, and having different touch points, whether that's in physical presence or online, I think is a huge help. Another piece for me, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, is by doing a retreat with someone, especially if you're doing deeper work with someone, you get to see their true self. You get to see how they handle challenges, how they show up. Are they being authentic? Are they being vulnerable? Are they being real? And it creates a level of depth. Like you feel deeply connected to someone after you've gone through like a really transformational experiences with them. And so I think that's also like a really, really great way to kind of, be able to pick and choose who's a good fit, because you can do an online interview on a Zoom call, but you're not going to really understand who they are. But if you do a week-long transformational experience with them, you'll go very deep with them and see all the different shades of them. So,
yeah, all of that was really a great perspective, and I think it's a smart approach, especially if you're being intentional, right? There's some people who are just building communities to flip the property to make a profit, but if you're building an intentional community, you kind of want to know the people, and I think starting with retreats or starting with some type of events or some type of experiences makes a lot of sense. So where are you at right now, on your journey here?
Yeah, I think right now the biggest decision point that I need to make is where should this project be? El Salvador is high up on the list.
Can I stop you there? Have you kind of figured out whether you want to be near the beach or in the mountains? Have you figured that out already, or are you kind of letting that happen organically too?
I would say I want to be at least near the beach. I don't need to be on the beach, but I do enjoy being near the water. I'm Pisces, so I feel deeply connected to water, and so. Yeah, I mean, I've always lived pretty close to the beach and would like to at least have access to the beach.
And when you say access, are you talking about 15 minutes or an hour?
I'd say 20 minutes max, ideally.
And I know you were kind of going into what country as well, but I kind of want to dig into this a little bit too. Have you thought about any other variables in terms of like where you want your property positioned?
Yeah, I've thought long and hard about this, and for me, I don't want to be isolated. I don't want to be, okay, we've got this amazing community, and we're all, really close, but we're disconnected to the rest of the world. I want to be connected to the world. I want to have access to good food. I want to have access to some events and some gatherings and some, I want to be close to civilization, a hub of people. I want not only to be around like-minded people that I'm, living with, but I also want to be around like-minded people that are in the greater area, in a nearby hub. And so for me...
And how far would that be?
What I've discovered is if you're more than 25 minutes away, it's going to prevent you from going to said place. Mm-hmm. I find that's the cutoff, is I'll drive 25 minutes for dinner, but I won't drive 30 or 35 oftentimes. Mm-hmm. And so, so I've noticed that's kind of a threshold for myself and many others when chatting about this. And so I think that's kind of the sweet spot. You don't want to go past 25 minutes.
And how big of a metropolitan city do you want?
Preferably not a big city. Preferably a smaller beach town that has livelihood, has people, like-minded people, has restaurants,
stuff
has
like
some action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And so what countries have you explored or thought about?
So I have been involved in projects in Bali, Nicaragua, Mexico, and Costa Rica. And all of them have amazing parts to themselves. They're all tropical, beautiful places with amazing people. I think one thing that's important to me is to be somewhere that's up and coming. I've been, I've lived a long time in Bali. It's the #1 tourist destination in the world. It has been for many, many years. The price of land has skyrocketed in the last 5 years. And so to do something there doesn't seem super practical. Costa Rica's kind of in a similar realm as that. It's already blown up. The cost of land has increased significantly. And so for me, I think it just makes sense to do something in a place that's up and coming. That's why El Salvador is very interesting. And yeah, I mean, finding that perfect pocket where it's not too busy, it's not too overdeveloped, it's not already, been so established and popular for many years, but also I want a heartbeat at the same time. I don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere where there's nothing. And so it's like finding this balance between there is some livelihood, it's growing, but it hasn't gone too far. So being in tourism, I've seen so many of these places over the years that I've seen them in their infancy when they're just starting to get popular, and then I've seen the massive growth that they've gone through, and so I understand the trends of that, and I think it's important to catch a place before it's gone crazy.
Yeah. So have you seen examples of what you want to built out, and have they succeeded? Have you seen failures? Any lessons that you've learned along the way?
So many lessons. Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of lessons myself. Been involved in a lot of projects and experienced a lot of ups and downs and learned a lot. I shared with you a little bit on one of the biggest lessons I've learned is how timing is very important, and staging things in the right order is super important. And so before I was raising money for a particular piece of land with all of everything completely dialed in, all the architectural designs, all the financial planning, all of everything ready to go. But then when I was ready to move, either the land wasn't available anymore, the owner pulled out of the deal, different things have happened. And so I've learned a lot to make sure to have the money ready to go, raise the money, or at least get commitments for the money, even before everything is all completely dialed in, so that you're ready to actually move on the piece of land or on the property when it becomes available. So that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned over the years. Another big lesson is like alignment with the people that you're working with is huge. If you're not in alignment, and even if you're 1 degree off, you know, I can't remember what the saying is, but like if you're 1 degree off and you're sailing, you're going to end up in a completely different
way
direction.
off chart. Yeah.
And so so ensuring that the alignment is there with the people that you're working with is super, super important. And yeah, making sure that you understand how each other work, what are your patterns, what triggers each other, and all of the things, because things come up, especially when we're talking about large amounts of money. We're talking about home, which also represents like safety and security. And so, it's really, really important to be aligned and to be able to communicate in a really honest and open way, and be able to navigate the challenges that do and will come up with these types of projects. So it's probably the biggest learnings.
Wow. Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, I've learned lessons along the way, and I'm sure I'm going to learn many more. Moving into a realm where you're dealing with now people's living spaces and their personalities, I'm sure it comes with a host of new challenges as well to navigate that. Have you thought anything about that? Like kind of what the rules or the laws or how things would be set up? I don't want to say laws, but kind of whether it be an HOA, whether it be agreement, would you have a constitution? Like, have you thought any of that?
I've thought long and hard for many, many, many years, and I've explored many different governance models. There's holacracy, there's sociocracy, there's a simple HOA system, there's a DAO, there's so many different ways to structure things. To be completely honest, I don't know the answer. I don't know like what is the best model. I think that there's a lot of different projects and communities that are testing out a lot of these different governance models right now, and I think it'll be very interesting to watch and see which ones come out and which ones are thriving and which ones struggle. I'm somewhat a little bit more leaning towards keeping it as simple as possible. We talked a little bit about this yesterday as well, is like overcomplicating it too much. I think it can wreck things. And so keeping it simple, having a simple structure, and finding this balance, because it is home and it is community, and so people want to be able to feel heard and to be able to contribute in the decision making. I think it's important, but if it's constantly you're in decision fatigue trying to make things happen and get decisions made to move forward, that can also slow down everything as well. And so it's like, where's this balance between making sure that everybody have a say without turning it into too many cooks in the kitchen and nothing ever getting done.
Yes, it's going to be interesting navigating that as well. Are you kind of taking the approach that you'll figure it out as you go?
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the point where for me it's more about just finding the right people and working with the right people and figuring it out along the way.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the dictator that dictates this is how it's going to be and we're going to do it this way. It's like, hey, let's all come together. Let's all sit at the table and let's see how we can do this in a collaborative way that can serve everyone. And yeah, ensuring that if it does get to a point where it's too many cooks in the kitchen, leadership is also important. Having a strong leader, if we look at majority of strong organizations across the world, across the history, there's usually been leadership in some way, shape, or form. And so yeah, I think, pretending like we're all equal and we all have an equal say about things, that can just lead to decision fatigue and nothing getting done. And so, yeah, ensuring that the right leadership is in place and that people trust that leadership and that we don't need to make a decision on every single thing. It's, it's just finding that balance. So
Awesome. Well, Brady, this has been a great conversation, a ton of valuable information. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with me. Is there anything else you want to say? Is there something you want to share, contact info, or just any last words?
Maybe last words for anyone that's thinking about living in community. I would say there's so many communities that exist already. It is an amazing way to live, to connect with people, to live with like-minded people. I really, truly believe that life can be so much more nourishing and fulfilling when we're living with a group of like-minded people. And so, I want to encourage people to just go and find a community out there. There's so many, and just go and stay there for a month or 3 months or however long and get a feel for it. And that will reveal so much. And if any of you want to connect, maybe Instagram is the best way. My Instagram is Brady's_life. And it was great chatting with you.
Yeah, it was great. Good to meet you. Great chatting. Take care, guys.